Greg, first you guys react. What's the attitude of the group coming off another hard-fought game last week? How are you guys approaching this weekend?
Yeah, good. Just, again, bounce back. There's a lot of good things inside of our performance on the weekend. We had, a few mistakes that were big mistakes for us. Some poor decisions and just some mistakes that they were able to certainly capitalize on. But some good stuff inside of it. I thought we created some good chances. We obviously scored 2 goals, but for me, that game can go either way. But we've got to tighten up again the opportunities that we give the opposition. Throwing the ball in across our face of our goal, not the play we want. We lose the ball right in front of our back line, not really under pressure, not really a play that we want. Loss of a guy on the corner kick, which I think is a kind of an emotional reaction to the goal even before. So it's just closing up again those types of things. The guys are really positive about the overall performance, but there's a clear understanding that we've got to close the gap on the errors that we're making to give ourselves a real opportunity to get on a run of results, right? For starting with the first one. So again, there's a lot of positives inside of that. This group is to a point now where not a lot of talking that they want to do the week. They want another opportunity to get on the field to try to get the results and get moving forward.
No surprise having Javier out there. That just seems a little livelier.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously his movement is really smart. His competitive spirit adds to the group, even defensively, just in terms of communicating and organizing how we are moving together from the front. Lots of things that obviously he brings into the equation. He had some good moments, opportunities even to score. Good hard near post run when we do score. So again, there's him just continuing to get sharp in and around the goal. It's his first game in a long time, really. So those things will come for him, even in addition to all the other things that he brings to the table.
We saw Ricky so good. How much did Javier play a role in that? Just having Javier as somebody that you're playing too.
Yeah, I mean that could be some of it. I think we did a better job in terms of our spacing in this game in midfield to give him some space to be a little bit more mobile. It wasn't as crowded, which, I think at times in games previously when he was picking up balls and then turning or looking to get into things, he was encountering our own teammates, and in some of the overloads we were maybe crowding ourselves up a little bit. In this game we held a little more space open for him, and you're able to see him accelerate through those spaces and get into some of those attacking actions that he got into. So I think there's a combination of things there that played into that factor, into that role. None the least is just playing against LAFC and the mentality and the intensity and all of that. And everybody we play needs to have their jerseys on, so that we are, because we like that game and that. But that's where we are. Every game is going to be a one game final for a little while until we can just get ourselves moving with the momentum that we want, because it's just momentum so precious inside of our league. It's crazy, because it's details and it's subtleties that make the difference in that game. So,
Your thoughts on Austin? You had some success against them last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they're a good team. They don't have the way they play and the way they approach the game isn't so dissimilar from us. And Josh and the way he wants to play. He likes his team to have possession of the ball. They're trying to occupy and fill certain spaces on the field, and then they're trying to play through those spaces and get guys in front of the goal and get to the end line and hit some crosses. I mean, it's when we see them, and we said this last year, they're not so dissimilar from what we're trying to do. So you have a good sense of what they're going to come out with. They'll rotate their shape in a couple different ways inside of their possessions. And they'll play against us. Depending on what we do, they'll adjust a little bit to try to create some issues for us. So I like it because it's an interesting matchup for us just from a tactical perspective. But for us at this point, it's about carving out the errors and eliminating those moments that make us vulnerable and capitalizing on the moments that we're creating. So, but they've obviously had some challenges in terms of injuries over the course of the season. They've had some center back situation. They lost a left back to a season-ending injury, which all is difficult to manage through. They've had some other situations themselves. So they're not. It's weird because they're not in like an entirely different place than we are in some way, shape, and form. Though they've been able to get I think a win out of it. So.
How close is Audi to being ready to start go 90 minutes?
Yeah, I think he's there. He's competing for the spot and for the minutes. I think physically he's kind of settled in here and mentally settled in here. You know, this last week was his first week here, just kind of getting used to his surroundings, where he's going to live, all those kinds of things, in addition to just the day-to-day. But I think he is settled in on that aspect. I mean, he had played a ton of games in the under-20 South American Championships, and he had still been training even after we had signed him in that lull between getting his visa. So fitness-wise, I think he's in a decent spot to continue to move forward. I think so. It's just, you know, when he's settled in and ready to go, we'll put him out there.
Does Raheem move higher up then?
Well, I think that's an option with Raheem. He's very versatile and flexible, as we've seen over the course of his career. So it gives us an option to move him to become, you know, possibly a little more dynamic, a left-footed runner up in front of us. So it definitely gives us some flexibility with Ra and how we would use him from week to week.
You said you're still looking to get in, one, maybe two pieces. The window closes
Next Monday?
A couple days. Yeah.
Under the gun again.
Yeah, I mean, we're still working there. It's been an incredible series of events with every player that we've been in communication with. You know, these windows in the winter are not so easy because teams are in the tail end of their season. Some of them are playing for European spots. Some of them are playing to stay out of relegations. You know, some of them are playing in cup finals. So it's, you know, the players that we've been working towards, you know, sometimes the player is really eager to come. The club isn't willing to let them go at this moment. And, you know, the TAM spot is an awkward sum of money because it's not really enough to sometimes buy a player out of a situation that you really want to and still give that player. So it's, you know, we're working through all of that, but we have, you know, we're continuing to work through the players that we really like. We've had a good list of them. So, you know, we feel like we could be close in the next, you know, I'll know in the next probably 2 to 4 hours when I go inside of how much, you know, a couple of these discussions are really progressing here.
Do you feel confident?
I do. I feel confident we will make a move that will help our team, you know, as we continue to move forward, and we may still try to keep our options open for something internal. You know, it's about keeping some resources to give yourselves options over the summer, even if that's going to be inside the league or whatever. But we won't probably burn everything now. We'll probably try to do something now and keep something open for some of the discussions that we're having, even internally, about players who might be available in the summer that aren't available at this moment. So there's a lot of different discussions going on. So
where do you feel you need help?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think for us, it's some production out in the wide areas, some pace on the wide areas. It's some stretch, some guys who can create space, who get in the box, and you know, you see the situation where we break out in transition and Ricky's running it and Memo's coming around the outside. You know, if Memo's more of a central player for me, you know, so if that's a winger with just a little bit more get up, that may be a little bit clearer situation than it ends up being. And it's not, no disrespect to Memo, that's what a winger does. And so situations like that, again, just some dynamic running and threat behind the line. You know, the stuff that Sam and Kevin honestly gave us at times last year, you know, in stretches, and we're still looking to add a little bit of that because we, you know, between the two of them, we lost a lot of that. And so it's just continuing to work through some of that.
And speaking of wing, Coach will be back this week, I guess.
Yeah.
In terms of getting the best out of him and getting the maturity side of him, what kind of work do you have to do, and where do you feel like he is in all of that?
Yeah, again, I think with him he's got to get into a rhythm of games and performing, and that's the next step for him. I think his fitness level is at a good spot. I think he's focused on everything. He's trained hard. He looks good in training. I think a player like him has to get in rhythm with the team and rhythm with himself. You know, it's been a while since, you know, like Javi, it's been weeks and weeks since he's gotten a good run of minutes inside of 11v11, because he's one of those players who can really make a difference, and he plays in his way. You know, he likes to pick up balls either on the outside and get it across his left foot, and so it's also about us creating scenarios that are going to be good for him. And you know, these players that are like Douglas, it's about finding the right way to integrate them into the group so what they do can really be effective. In terms of his concentration, I think once he gets in that rhythm and he gets where he's helping the team and where he's a reliable piece of what we're trying to do, as he did in the last part of last season, both physically and mentally, then I think he gets himself in a good rhythm and he becomes very, very helpful for the group. So we saw that, like I said, the last 10 to 12 games maybe last year. And I think that's just what he needs that now. He needs to get out on the field. He needs to get himself a series of games and opportunities to just get himself into the rhythm of the group and the rhythm of the competition, really.
We see moments with him, and nothing where it's consistent, but every so often, maturity moments with him.
Yeah.
Any concerns about his head?
Yeah, look, he has that tendency. We've seen it. There's no two ways about it. He has a tendency to lose his mind in a moment, see red a little bit when it needs to be calm. We've seen that 2 or 3 times maybe in the course of his time here. I don't know if it's been more than that. He needs to stay. Look, he and I have had these conversations. He needs to stay focused on what matters, not get caught up in the other stuff that doesn't. If he can do that, he's going to be helpful, can be helpful for us. If he doesn't, then he's not going to be helpful to us. And that's the conversation that we've had, and he's aware of it. He's just got to be aware of it in the moment, right? In the moment, he's got to be aware of where he's at and making sure that he doesn't go to a place that doesn't help anyone. And so, am I concerned about it? Not really. At the same time, I'm very aware of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Injury-wise, is everybody available? Did Efra make it back?
Yeah, Efra will be back today, so he'll be back into the mix. Injury-wise, I think everyone is okay. I'm trying to think of who isn't. Everyone is out here. We had some little things that guys came out of when you have a highly contested game like that. You get some bumps and bruises and some knocks, and we had a freak accident this week, but the player's okay. But it's where we are right now. So,
was it a wrestling?
Yeah, Lucas got clipped. He was throwing some garbage away, and he got clipped with a broken bottle, and had to see the emergency room just to get things cleaned up. But he's okay. He's been training. No, he was slinging it over to get it into the garbage, and it just caught his lower leg and actually nicked a vein, which I think probably created a fountain of blood. And so he had to give his first visit to the emergency room in the United States to get that sorted out. But he's been training and he's okay. It's just, again, one of those kind of strange moments. Yeah, he's training. He's fine. So it's just an awkward moment.
Is the only one who's definitely out right now Bond? And how close are you starting to get a better sense as to how long?
Yeah, I mean, I would say he's questionable for next weekend. So he's been out on the field. He wasn't out doing stuff today, but he's been out on the field the last few days. He'll keep progressing, and we'll just see how he responds as he keeps taking a step forward each day, really. So he's, I would say, questionable for the next week, and then very probable thereafter. And we'll see how he goes. We'll even see how he is next week.
And it's, losing players can be a deficit, but I think Klinsman's been really good.
Yeah, John he's done well. Again, he's a phenomenal athlete, and he has so much potential inside of his body and physique and everything else. And sometimes it just has to go with the experience that you need to really understand inside of a game how much you can push the envelope for him. Because again, his physical tools, he could cover so much territory in front of the goal and just take things out of the air really easily. It's just inside of a match, it's how far can you press your comfort zone to be that dominating presence that can be inside of the goal. And when you're still in your first number of games, you're a little more cautious than maybe aggressive. And I think there's still more for him to for lack of a better word, sort of flirt with, so that he can really get a gauge of how much presence he can really have inside of the area when cross balls, on corner kicks, on set pieces. He could really dominate.
Is there still a building going on as well of within what his tools are to build him to what he can be? Is he aware of how good he can be? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. Again, I think some of it is just busting out of being in your comfort zone and challenging yourself to see what that looks like. if in the training environment coach hits me a ball inside of my wheelhouse, I'm comfortable with that. But if he puts it 3 yards outside my wheelhouse, can I go get that? And constantly stretching that comfort zone to make it bigger and bigger and bigger, and then taking that and translating it into a game scenario where you're very comfortable with that extended comfort zone inside the game, right? Players get that through experience. They get that, again, in the training environment by just extending and I'm always one with my keepers, like I'm not afraid of you making mistakes. Really try to, especially that's what preseason, all these games are for, really extend where you feel like your comfort zone can be, and let's find out so that we can, when we enter the season or we enter the moments, you have that comfort level. So he's processing that inside of playing games right now, and he hasn't had a ton of professional games, even though he's at his age. He just hasn't had a ton of games to work through that.
Mavinga.
That's the one. Yeah, Chris. Soleus strain. So we were concerned it was going to be worse than that. It's not. It's a kind of a calf soleus strain. So, we're probably looking at 4 weeks just to start to get going, and then it's a question of how quickly he gets back into the real run of things.
And I said Koulibaly's back just as he goes out.
Yeah, and you see with Sega's just got to get into a rhythm, and he's got to get his legs and mind under him. He's missed often. He's had just a very often on sort of preseason and start to the season with everything, and so he's got to get to a rhythm, and again, he's got to get some games. Wherever those games are, whether they're with us or whatever, he just needs to get into a rhythm again. He's a player that relies on that. Once he gets into the groove and the rhythm, he's easy going. But before that, sometimes he just needs to process a little bit.
And the situation is what the situation is. But I mean, who would have thought Jalen Neal's going to anchor this defense and really be good at it?
Yeah, I mean we knew the kid had high potential, and that we liked where he's at, and he's got a very mature approach and in every aspect, on the field, off the field, and he's been great and been very reliable, which is the one thing you always want with a young player. Is you're always like, oh, is he gonna? Can we rely on him? And so far, he's been that, which has been wonderful to see. And so, again, we knew he was going to play a role. The question was, is he going to play as big a role as he's been able to play in this? And the answer is he's certainly capable of it, and he's done a great job.
Do you think you lose him for the World Cup?
That's our choice. Yeah, that'll be our choice. To be honest, that's really going to be very dependent upon where we are with the rest of our crew as we get to that, and which is a couple weeks away. My concern now with Chris going down is we're one lighter in that center back position. So it becomes a challenge. I know amongst other teams in the league, there's some other players that aren't being released and some that are, and it becomes a challenge. I mean, we have to find our balance between what we're doing here and what a player like that would gain out of an under-20 event. So we just got to work through that this next week or so.
Has he exceeded your expectations?
I think myself and Dan and a few others had high expectations for him, and have a huge belief. I've said before he even stepped on the field, this kid's going to play at a big club, and before he does that, he's going to play here a big role. And so, how quickly he's sort of adapted into the environment, and how comfortable he is against the players that he's had to manage in some of the environments, and even when the team hasn't been performing at as high a level as it can, he's still managed to stay consistent. That's impressive. That's really impressive. Yeah. So that's what I say. Like, playing center back isn't so much about some of these other things. It really is about your processing in your mind, your ability to stay calm and read situations and not get over aggressive when you shouldn't. And I've always felt like that's why this kid's going to be special, because he just, what's going on between his ears just makes a lot of sense, and that gives him the platform to continue to get better as a player, but also just to be calm in all these moments that seem like they could be challenges, because center backs see some really difficult situations in the game, and he shows the capacity to remain calm and just make good logical decisions, which has been nice. And he's still learning, and he's a learner. He's eager, and he's still learning some nuances. As an example, the throw-in that Ra takes, he kind of opens up down in the corner, and with a throw-in that deep, we say, Jay, you should never open up down in the corner, because even if we throw forward and lose it, you're not in position to protect the goal at that point. Just come, take your position, and you're telling Ra, just throw the ball up the field. Like, as a center back, my job is always protect the goal, So just little moments like that. It wasn't his fault. It's a silly throw in, but he as a veteran guy knows he can step into that position and say, hey, it's going forward because I'm not open that space up to invite that throw. I'm going to make sure we protect the goal in that moment. So there's just these little nuanced things that he's going to continue to grow and learn that, but he's so eager to do that, and he has that calm, open-minded presence that allows him to get better with each of these scenarios. My guess is he won't do that again because that's how quickly he picks up stuff.
Yeah. Just seems like a good kid when we deal with him.
He's a great kid, really, really good kid. So humility at the top level,
Yeah.
right? Which
Yeah.
is also why he's an easy learner.